The Buffalo Bills left the 2026 NFL Draft with a total of 9 selections, and today I'm going to break down each and every single one of those players. What's up, everyone? Welcome to Breaking Tables. I'm your host, Alex, and today we've got a big show. I wanted to start things off talking about the trades that happened on day one. 3 trades before completely backing out of the first round. They were initially supposed to select at pick 26, then they moved back with the Houston Texans, and then the New England Patriots, and then their last trade with the Tennessee Titans, sending them all the way back to pick 35 in the second round. It really seemed to be like it was Casey Concepcion no matter what, and when he was taken at pick 24 by the Cleveland Browns, who had an amazing draft, by the way, also taking Denzel Boston. But when he was drafted at 24 by the Browns, I think that was when the Buffalo Bills made the decision to back out. And for their first pick of the 2026 NFL Draft, at 35 overall, the Buffalo Bills selected TJ Parker, the edge rusher out of Clemson. He does have a military background with his father serving in the U.S. Army. Now, his stats in 2025 aren't anything to brag about, logging in 37 tackles, 5 sacks, and 9.5 tackles for loss. But in 2024, that's when he really delivered. He made 57 tackles with 19.5 tackles for loss, 11 sacks, and 6 forced fumbles. Now, there is something to be said about his lack of production in 2025. At the end of the 2024 season, the Clemson Tigers underwent a change at the defensive line coach position. Nick Eason, who was the defensive line coach in 2024, was hired by the Las Vegas Raiders to be their defensive line coach. And for Clemson, they went with their next man up, Chris Rumph. And to help TJ Parker's case, it wasn't just him who suffered a fall in production. It was also Peter Woods, the defensive tackle who was taken in the first round by the Kansas City Chiefs. In 2024, Clemson were a different animal when it came to their defensive line, with 46 sacks in the 2024 season. Now, when you compare that to last season in 2025, they finished with 34 sacks, 12 sacks less than the year before. Off the edge, TJ Parker's very explosive, has a high motor, very physical, and has very active hands. He also has pretty long arms. You could see him utilize that length with that long arm move. That's probably something that really caught the eye of Brandon Beane. Now, he is one of those high floor guys, definitely a safer pick. He's not really elite at anything in specific, and he'll definitely need to improve his tackling. Overall, I like the move. Buffalo add more firepower to that defensive line, especially at the edge rusher position. Now you have Greg Rousseau, Bradley Chubb, who you signed in the offseason, and now TJ Parker. But let's not forget how you have Michael Hoyt coming back from his injury. He looked really sharp when he did play. You have last year's third-round pick Landon Jackson, hopefully healthy to start the season. And then Javon Solomon. Buffalo did a great job securing a physical, explosive edge rusher with a high motor at pick 35. And moving on to their second pick on day 2, Buffalo couldn't wait. They had to jump back into that second round, moving from their third round pick at pick 66 over to 64, trading with the Denver Broncos. Buffalo gave up their third rounder, pick 66, and their sixth round pick, pick 182. And at 64 overall for their second selection of the 2026 NFL Draft, the Buffalo Bills went with Davison Igbinosun, also known as IGB, out of Ohio State. He was born in New Jersey, which was pretty cool, but more importantly, 2 years ago, Davison Igbinosun and Jordan Hancock were on the same team back at Ohio State. Jordan Hancock is obviously a 5th-round pick made by the Bills last year at defensive back, and general manager Brandon Beane actually had Jordan Hancock join Davison Igbinosun on that top 30 visit. IGB's got a very nice frame with long arms. He logged in 53 tackles last year, 2 interceptions, and 6 pass breakups. He's got great press skills. I mean, with those arms, how can you not be? He's very physical and aggressive, but he does get very grabby with 21 penalties over the last 2 years. He definitely has improved with only 6 penalties this past year, but it's definitely something that's going to take a bit in order to fix. He's a little raw when it comes to his coverage skills. He's got stiffer hips, and you'll definitely need to improve on his ball tracking. Now, I was a little shocked to see Buffalo take a cornerback on day 2, let alone trade back into the second round. But I do understand it. He's a very intriguing prospect, great traits, a really nice frame, and he came from Ohio State. That's a very reputable school. Something that Brandon Beane brought up last night really stuck with me. Over the past couple years in the playoffs, the Buffalo Bills have had to call backups to start. We saw that with Dane Jackson last year, came on the field for 1 snap and got burnt. Tre'Davious White, whether or not you want to say he was a backup last year, still similar context. And then against the Chiefs a year ago, they rolled out Kaiir Elam. Just not a good look. He was out of place all game, getting burnt by guys like Hollywood Brown. So with that being said, I do understand the need at cornerback. You need that cornerback 3 on the outside. You need the depth. But I just thought maybe they could do it late round 3, early round 4. I like guys like Julian Neal, Malik Muhammad. Malik Muhammad went in the 4th round. Julian Neal went pick 99 at the end of the 3rd. I just thought the second round was a little rich for a 3rd cornerback. But the long and physical press corner should definitely undergo a lot of development and refinement, especially working behind guys like Christian Benford and Maxwell Hairston. you could say is one of the best duos at cornerback in the NFL. So let's start off day 3. The Buffalo Bills began the day with a trade, trading pick 101, moving back one spot with the Las Vegas Raiders to 102. Pretty nice to add one pick just to move one spot. So with their third pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, round 4, pick 102, the Buffalo Bills select Jude Bowry, the offensive tackle out of Boston College. He was a team captain in 2025. He's extremely fast off the line, really quick feet, and it's really hard to push him around once he gets his hands on you. He's got a strong overall body, strong hands, and if you want to roll back the tape, check out his game against Clemson. He handled TJ Parker. As a Bills fan, I don't really know how to feel about this, seeing your second round pick get mauled by your fourth round pick, but it's a nice addition to the roster nonetheless. He is still very raw when it comes to his technique, whether that's with his hands, his pad level, or his footwork. He also has slightly below average arms, and he suffered a lower body injury late in the season. I'll admit, it was a little surprising at first seeing the Bills go depth with their first 3 picks, but he does add a lot of insurance at the tackle position. Now the Bills have a very solid swing tackle with low-end starter upside. It's weird that I even need to say this, but I really do doubt it means anything for Dion Dawkins or Spencer Brown. Just a nice depth addition. Staying in the 4th round, but moving on to things that might be a little more interesting. Certainly more interesting for me. I'm a big fan of these next 3 picks. And with their second 4th round pick at pick 125 overall, the Buffalo Bills select Skyler Bell, the wide receiver out of the University of Connecticut. And something quite interesting I found out is that he is the second highest wide receiver selected by Brandon Beane, the first one being Keon Coleman, 33rd overall. Skyler Bell met with the Bills coming in for a private workout, but he also met with them back at the Combine, where he tore it up. He ran a 4.4 40-yard dash and logged in a 41-inch vertical. He also logged in an 11-foot 1-inch broad jump, 3rd in the class, resulting in a 9.83 out of 10 RAS score. And now there is something to be said about Skyler Bell's productivity, arguably the most productive wide receiver out of the entire class. He wrapped up his 2025 campaign with 7.8 catches per game, and a 34.5% target rate, both first in the class. He also was one of 2 wide receivers to average more than 3 yards when it comes to routes run against man and zone. The only other wide receiver to do that is USC's Mekhi Lemon, who went 20th overall to the Philadelphia Eagles. Skyler Bell's a very quick and twitchy wide receiver, with most of his production coming from the screen game or after the catch. He's very versatile and extremely dangerous with the ball in his hands. He also has great contact balance and very reliable hands. Surprisingly enough, very impressive contested catch ability. Buffalo had an extremely athletic, versatile, and productive weapon at wide receiver for Josh Allen and Joe Brady. He should have a small day 1 impact and later develop into a very reliable option. And it's kind of funny because I was a little disappointed Buffalo didn't move back into that 3rd round to get a guy like Skyler Bell, but they ended up just getting him at pick 125. Not even with their first 4th round pick. And at pick 126, just 1 pick later, the Buffalo Bills selected a linebacker, Kaleb Elarms-Orr out of TCU. And the first team All Big 12 linebacker actually came in for a top 30 visit. And there's a reason he was named first team All Big 12. He killed it in 2025. He's a tackling machine. He had 130 tackles, 4 sacks, and 11 tackles for loss. And for the things that stuck out to me when watching his tape at TCU, he's a phenomenal tackler and an exceptional athlete. He attacks downhill with speed and physicality. But he does have really inconsistent play recognition. You can see that on the field and on the stat sheet with only 1 interception in over 1,800 snaps. Overall, for a team that lacked linebacker depth to say the least, Kaleb Elarms-Orr is a great addition, bringing physicality, athleticism, and on-field production to the linebacker room. For now, he's just depth. He's just a backup, but he does have potential to turn into a starter given his traits. And for the first of 2 selections in the 5th round at pick 167, the Buffalo Bills select Jalon Kilgore out of South Carolina. He was announced as a safety, but he mostly played slot corner, or that star role if you want to call it that. He came in for a private workout with the Bills, as well as met with them back at the Combine, where he tore it up. For context, he did test as a safety. He ran a 4.4 second 40-yard dash with a 10-foot 10-inch broad jump, first in the class, recorded 16 reps on the bench press, 3rd in the class, resulting in a near-perfect 9.97 RAS score. He's got great ball skills, always seems to be at the right place at the right time, good play recognition. He's also very aggressive and physical, a great tackler, really good run defense, and then he also has longer arms. Now, I really didn't expect Jalon Kilgore to be available on day 3, let alone round 5. I thought he was a day 2 lock, late 2nd, early 3rd kind of player. Like I said, he could play slot corner, star, safety, wherever you want him to play. That might have had an effect on him falling because he didn't have a true position, but like If you're drafting a slot corner on day 2, why not Jalon Kilgore? In Buffalo, he could serve as a backup and then later on become a starter. He's going to learn a lot from CJ Gardner-Johnson, a very physical player, can play both safety and slot corner. The Bills were actually supposed to select back-to-back just like how they did in round 4, but instead they gave up pick 168 to the Detroit Lions in exchange for pick 181 and a 6th-rounder pick 213. And at that 181 spot, for their second pick of round 5, the Buffalo Bills select Zane Durant, the defensive tackle out of Penn State. He had himself a pretty productive 2025 campaign with 25 tackles, 4.5 tackles for loss, 4 sacks, and 1 interception. He's really quick and twitchy with elite athleticism, great burst off the line, and has a very high motor. Now, he is undersized, he has very short arms, and he could get pushed around in the run game at times because he lacks that functional strength. But overall, he's one of those speedy and undersized 3 techniques at defensive tackle. Really reminds me of Ed Oliver. And funnily enough, he'll be working behind Ed Oliver and TJ Sanders, serving as their backup. And there were no 6th-round selections for the Buffalo Bills this draft. They gave up pick 213, backing out of the 6th round in exchange for 239 and 241 from the Chicago Bears. And for their first of 3 selections in the 7th round at pick 220, the Buffalo Bills select cornerback Toriano Pride Jr. out of Missouri, their 3rd defensive back selected. Now, he is undersized for an outside corner, especially one that's going into the NFL, but I do think that his home is at outside corner. He could carry his skill set into the slot, but I think he fits best on the outside. He was pretty productive for Missouri last season, logging in 24 tackles, 2 interceptions, and 4 pass breakups. And for the things that stuck out to me when watching his tape at Missouri, he's very physical, great in press, fluid hips, and great ball tracking. He also faced very good competition in the SEC. Now, like I said, he is very undersized. I hope he can survive out there on the outside at 5'10 with 31-inch arms. But you could see it on the tape. He needs to improve as a tackler. He really lacks that functional strength. Right now, there are a lot of uncertainties with Dorian Strong and his health, so it's very good that they double dipped at corner. Although I will say this doesn't close the door whatsoever for a guy like Tre'Davious White to come back. And now moving on to the Bills' second selection of the 7th round at pick 239, the Buffalo Bills select a punter, Doman Jr. out of Florida. Another player with a military background, his father was a Marine. Although he doesn't seem to be a field flipper, he could still boot it pretty far. He has good hang time. He's still working on avoiding those shorter punts turning into touchbacks. He could also hold kicks, work kickoffs, and even come in as the emergency kicker. It was pretty obvious that Buffalo was going to go after a punter, whether that's in the draft or as an undrafted free agent. Doman Jr. has a chance to be the starter on week 1. He just has to beat out Mitch Wishnowsky. And if he doesn't, to the practice squad he goes until his name is called. And for their 10th selection of the 2026 NFL Draft, their 3rd selection in the 7th round at pick 241, the Buffalo Bills select Armaj Adams, the guard out of Texas A&M. He is a force at right guard. He's very strong with long arms, and he's a very good puller. And just like any 7th round pick, there's a lot to work on. He'll need to improve on both his hand technique and his footwork. I like the pick to wrap everything up. A nice addition along the interior of the offensive line. Some good depth with a chance to become a very good backup. And for context, the Buffalo Bills entered the draft with 7 picks and left with 10 selections. Their first 2 being in the 2nd round, edge rusher TJ Parker out of Clemson and cornerback Davison Igbinosun going by IGB out of Ohio State. In the 4th round, the Bills made 3 selections, starting off with offensive tackle Jude Bowry out of Boston College, then wide receiver Skyler Bell out of the University of Connecticut, and linebacker Kaleb Elarms-Orr out of TCU. In the 5th, they went with 2 players, defensive back Jalon Kilgore out of South Carolina, and defensive tackle Zane Durant out of Penn State. And then in the 7th round, they selected 3 players, cornerback Toriano Pride Jr. out of Missouri, punter Doman Jr. out of Florida, and then last but not least, the guard out of Texas A&M, Armaj Adams. Overall, with it all said and done, I'm a big fan of the 2026 draft class for the Buffalo Bills. It was an unorthodox strategy to target depth positions early, but then they really put a bow on it on day 3. Specifically, that sequence of 3 selections, starting off with wide receiver Skyler Bell, linebacker Kaleb Elarms-Orr, and then defensive back Jalon Kilgore. I love those picks. Those are 3 players I'm a huge fan of and 3 players I couldn't stop talking about during the pre-draft process. And for the undrafted guys, Buffalo's already signed a few players. I'll be breaking them down in another video. I want some time to watch them play so I can provide you guys with a more nuanced breakdown. But that's all I have for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed today's episode of Breaking Tables. I loved covering this draft for you guys. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Make sure to like this video if you enjoyed it, and let me know your thoughts on this draft in the comments. Let me know who your favorite pick was. Let me know if there's a player they should have picked. But that's all until next time. Take care and go Bills.